Hi everybody, Karen Nelson Bell here. Those of you listening, I know you already know that I've been an investor, a real estate investor for 30 years, and I've been a trainer, a mentor around the country for 17 years now, and you all know me by my book, Nothing Down for Women. The interesting thing is that the strategies that I use there allowed me to develop a portfolio that basically takes care of my living now for the rest of my life. I don't have to rely on Social Security. So I'm glad for that. However, do not assume for 1 minute that I'm planning to retire, because I'm more interested in investing now than I ever have been. And the exciting thing for me is that I get to interview Ivan Ansulovich, because he's the founder of Equity and Help, which is a new company which has taught me things that I never heard of, I never knew of when I was writing this book. And I'm changing up my strategies, and I thought you might be interested. I wanted you to feel the answers of how he did this and why he did this. Is so interesting. So I'm going to introduce you to Ivan Ansulovich. And Ivan, I want to hear from you the thought processes behind the creation of the company and the rewarding new focus that you've developed. But honestly, I'm so impressed with your background. It's absolutely mind-boggling that you accomplished what you did at such an early age. You were so young when you had your first huge successes, and then you followed it with more success. Would you please, there's like 3 areas of things that I just wish you would cover so that they can get to know you the way I do.
Of course. Hi all, and thank you, Karen, for being with us and for your, rewarding of actually going through researching about us and being with us and just knowing more about Equity and Help. I really appreciate someone like you being, interested in our creation.
Thank you.
So the main thing, in my background is that I started in 2014, and when I started this company, I come from all the background in different activities that I was doing.
Where
before.
did you come from?
I come from originally from being an entrepreneur in the car industry since I am 14 years old.
And what country were you in?
In Argentina.
How come you don't have an Argentinian name, Ivan? This is not a common Argentinian name, is it?
No, it's not a common. Basically, the last name comes from Croatia.
Oh my gosh, fascinating.
Exactly. So after that, when I was 14 years old, actually I always was born with my entrepreneurial spirit,
Yeah.
And I had actually my first small enterprise when I was 6-7 years old, and I put together these cards, the cards for children.
Yeah.
I create the whole area in my city for my friends to come, run my card, and pay me by hour.
Can you believe that? Oh my gosh, that's
exactly.
Fantastic.
And then at the age of, one of the key things is that my family always support my entrepreneurial spirit, and they never stop, even though they were sometimes crazy things for the 6-7 years old,
Wow.
So I managed to continue developing that, and then at the 14 years old, I created a 4x4 entrepreneurship thing when I put together a lot of trucks to go into the mountains, and I was teaching them how to use them onto the mountains. Even needed to acquire a license from the police, with that age, and then took all these people into that, and then continued with another entrepreneurship in radios and created a radio show with 15-16 years old, and then continue and expanded a very huge network of distributors in Latin America for Herbalife, being the youngest actually man or entrepreneur into the level for the entire Latin America at that time.
Hold on a second. That's going to impress quite a few of my listeners, because I'm a big believer in network marketing. So you were 14 and...
I was 14 and I started that. Yes.
Oh my gosh, that is just amazing. I'm sorry. I find that just really inspiring.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Carry on.
Okay.
What happens next?
Okay, so then what happened, I was traveling all Latin American countries, training young people to actually succeed in entrepreneurship and expanding, into their careers through yes, exactly,
So you've been a helper for a long time.
Yep. Exactly.
Wow.
So then in 2007, I started to, put together different systems into my father company that he started when I was a children, and we expanded from 14 employees into the company up above the 100 employees in just a few years.
Wow.
And develop different branches, and now we have in my family one of the top Toyota dealerships network in relation to quality of customer service.
Wow.
So a lot of my background comes from studying the Toyota, culture itself. I've been in Japan and in Toyota City, and learning from the entire systems that they have, and the importance of respect for people and constant improvement of systems that are the main two, foundational rocks of Toyota worldwide.
That's fascinating. As a Toyota Prius driver, that is interesting. It kind of makes sense. But didn't you do something that was far afield from all of that? I mean, recently you developed something that I would have never envisioned. This young 14-year-old probably never thought he was going to get into the digital age.
Exactly. So back in 2014, I started also digging into this digital currency industry.
Mm-hmm.
So with a Russian friend of mine, we went and we started putting together a Bitcoin mining operation.
Wow.
And we went into one of the first Bitcoin conference that exists in the United States.
Wow. That's impressive.
Exactly. So I start to see how that thing, can, fix some areas of the economies. I started to see that point, but then I realized, I was looking always for something that will take me off speculation, because something that I don't like it was speculation, because you want to build something, and as my friend Grant Cardone said, get rich for sure, not rich quick.
Well, my listeners don't care for speculation either. In the real estate field, you can be a speculator, and there are people who have the deep pockets to do that, but we don't do it. I never guess.
Exactly.
I know what's going to happen.
Exactly.
I pretty much know what's going to happen.
Exactly.
I can't really say I totally know, but we don't like speculation either.
Exactly. I'm not saying Bitcoin is something bad or something good, of course. It's something that you need to know. It is a speculation, because you don't know what will happen tomorrow with your money.
Right.
And you don't know what will happen in the next few hours with your money. Yeah. And that by itself is a speculation.
So what did prompt you then to get into the field of real estate? What made you think this was a way to go?
Okay, so in 2007, together with all the other entrepreneurship developments, I started my first private neighborhood in Argentina.
He said private neighborhood.
Exactly.
Private neighborhood?
Yes, private neighborhood.
Tell me more.
Exactly. So land development, land development.
Yeah.
So I bought a piece of land and created a whole private neighborhood for citizens there. And what I, find that was passionate about for me is that I will be able to help people live in their own home, financing them, to actually live in their home, because in my country it's not easy for someone to get financing from the bank. It's much harder than here. At least in that time. Now it's a little bit more easier, but in that time it was much more harder. Like only 5% of the population will get a loan from the bank for their own home.
Wow.
So I create this private neighborhood, and then I start financing.
And you financed each one of the houses
Exactly.
yourself?
Not houses, was the land.
You financed the land?
The land. And then they will go and build their own house. That was something more easy to achieve than the land in a private neighborhood.
I gotcha. That's amazing. That is really amazing. Well, as you expanded, then you came and you came to the U.S.
Yes.
And how long have you been living here?
4 years.
And you like it?
I love it.
You gonna stay?
Yes.
Oh, I'm glad.
I love this country. Yes.
So, how did what you experienced there prompt you? What were your observations that made you think, well, I need to develop this? We're headed towards this thing called philanthro-investing, and I can see now that you've said what you've said, but I don't want to jump the gun. Tell everybody how you kind of came into that position here in the United States.
Okay, so what I observed here when I came to the US, I observed two things. One is that there were a lot of speculation in the investment world. Petroleum and oil went down in 2015 like 70%, and gold and silver and all these precious metals also went down, and people were expecting in 2011 that this was going to poof and jump, and it went down, and all these gurus are speaking about beautiful about these things, and then they cannot hold their word because they are speaking about promising future on something that is in speculation, and it's not that they are trying to do something bad, or it's just their belief, but then it's based upon and the substantialism many actions of many people around the world that affect this, you know.
Yeah.
So it's just okay, I believe this will be that way, and then went the other way, you know. So that's, and then the gurus need to be changing their world, you know.
Yeah.
And I was observing all of that, and I experienced it personally myself, investing in different digital currencies and investing in this forex, foreign exchange, and stocks and bonds. And I went from 38,000 to 250,000 and to 30,000 in the next month, and all that speculation. So I was wanting and following, a path to actually find something that will not be speculation, nevermore.
But there was an extra component to it, because you were also thinking, at least from what I've seen, you were also thinking, how can I do something that's more personally satisfying?
Correct. And that's the next part.
Okay.
Because what I saw when I come here, also I find out that were these families losing. I actually experienced myself being in Argentina, the 2008 crisis of the United States. When the real estate crash happened in the United States, all the countries of the world heard about it. And not only heard about it, but the US dollar was affected and impacted the entire planet. You see the point?
Yeah.
So I personally experienced that, and then when I came here, I started looking for what in real estate can be made. So I started to going for different real estate seminars, and I find some real estate mentors that show me some of the things that they were doing, and I saw, look, I see the point of actually these families losing these homes, and it's contradictory. These families losing their homes and a lot of abandoned homes that the banks cannot manage. It doesn't make sense. We live in this planet in order for us as a humanity to improve, and one of our missions as a human beings is actually make sure that the entire humanity is doing better. Otherwise, why we're here? Just to live one life and just buy one car and buy one home and raise 3 children, and then that's all? It's not that. There is something bigger than that, So it's more than one life, and it's more than that. It's the whole humanity, and it's for eternity. So that was my understanding that I started getting, So when I start actually getting that point, I say, these families are losing these homes. The homes are there abandoned. There is billions of dollars being used in speculation. People is losing this money. How is people is losing this money in one day? Where that money goes? So I start asking me all that questions, Okay, now the person that have 250,000 in stocks and the next day it has 30,000. Okay, where did that money go? Like it was lost, but actually it was not lost. The money is there. Now it changed hands, but one person lost, the other person win. How is that thing, It must be something that we can create that shows the responsibility of human beings for other human beings, and it can actually give a return at the same time.
I like it so much, Ivan. You know how much I like it. I like it so much that here I am participating. You're a wealthy young man. You're young. I don't know how old you are. Do you tell your age?
33.
You're 33.
Yep.
Well, you're a young man, and you're a wealthy young man. What advice do you give to others, whether they're old or whether they're young like yourself, if they want to create a financial legacy for their families and help other people at the same time, but they want to do something for their families and their neighbors as well, and for their retirement, because most people, unlike myself, won't have Social Security, I don't think. Probably won't have Social Security. So what advice would you give them, knowing that now that we know your background? What can you say, like pinpoint something you could tell a young man such as yourself? Maybe he's 14 right now. I don't know if there's any 14-year-olds listening to this, but if there is, or maybe a nice 22-year-old.
Find the purpose that excites you, and you know that purpose is not for you, it's for the humanity, and follow it with persistence. And just the barriers, take it as games, and know that more barriers will come, and just see them as a game that you need to overcome for that purpose that you are actually living. Wow.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. That's how I view you. It's a guy, he's like a big kid and he's playing games every day, all day. Do you think I'm right?
You're right, yes. And you know, one of the things that I just recalled on this point that we was talking about the philanthro-investors, that behind that philanthro-investor, like if you go into
Hold on for 1 second.
Yeah.
The word he's saying is philanthro-investor. And as it goes by, maybe you didn't catch it, but I wanted to make sure you know what we're talking about. Philanthro-investor, which is a philanthropist who is also an investor, and they mush together. Okay?
Exactly.
Is that right?
Is that right?
Okay, so
exactly.
carry on.
So if that philanthropist viewpoint is actually is someone that is doing something to help others without anything just back, just the exchange back is the factor of you being able to see that what you gave improved the humanity.
Satisfaction.
Exactly,
Yeah.
that's the only thing.
Yeah.
And if you look at it, like when you look at all the billionaires, just analyze all the billionaires that exist on this planet. Most of them, I will not say all because I don't know if all, but most of them, you look Warren Buffett and Bill Gates and many other people also, what they do after they have billions of dollars, they become a philanthropist.
Yeah.
Because they realize, even they say, I'm not giving all this fortune to my children. I want my children to actually have the enjoyment of creating by himself.
Yeah.
You know, the ability that he created by himself. This, because I enjoy it. So they give like 90% of their money to, you know, institutions that will, you know, I hope that they do it into an organization that they actually research very well, and for sure they make sure that their money is being put into the real improvement of the humanity.
Exactly.
You know, so but that's actually what happened with these billionaires. So when these philanthropists that any investor want to achieve, and the final purpose of life will be, okay, how I can help and give back all the things that I won in the past. Why you cannot do it from day number one, and being an investor at the same time, who you get in return, and doing philanthropist activity.
Exactly.
So behind all this word that is philanthro-investor is one word, as together that how you say in English? Combine, correct, is that there's two main foundations behind that. The first foundation on the purpose is actually to stabilize human beings. That's the behind the purpose of all this company. That is not actually sharing to the mission of the company. It's behind the mission of the company.
I understand.
So it's to stabilize human beings, because you see that what happened with these families and these children, that they are renting and then for some reason the landlord kicked them out, or they don't treat them as families, they treat them as numbers, or the bank, they treat them as numbers, and there is not flexibility and affinity for them. If they don't pay 1 month, 2 months, you are off. And then what happened with these children? These children had children, right? Friends, right? In that neighborhood. They had the same school. They went to this school. They had these friends. They had this playground to do bicycle. The parents have that market, supermarket to buy the food. And they had that store to put, gasoline in the car. And
everything the same.
Exactly,
Yeah. Stable,
correct.
Yeah.
So basically one of the things that it is behind is this purpose of stabilizing, because now if you give to the family a 20-year loan that it is half of the rent, the price of the home that they enter in, it can be below the after repair value, so they have a possibility to win because they repair their home, and then they can stay there. They know that they can be in communication with the company that is not seeing them only as a number. And that's why it's very important that our philanthro-investors understand this, because we are not treating these families as a number. We are in communication with them, and we will help them as long as they continue in communication. That's the only thing that we require.
Highly, highly different. Most of the people who are listening to this and watching this have already seen PowerPoint presentations, so they understand that what Equity and Help does is buy homes at a very, very deep discount from banks. Every month they buy another list of homes, and then they arrange through another subsidiary of the company to provide those homes to people in different locations around the country, specific places where the banks had these homes, and then they offer the investor the opportunity to sell or finance those homes to the people. So there's a great stability on both sides. There's a stability for the home buyer and there's a stability for the investor. So, but I would like very much if you would address something for me, Ivan, and that is, what would you say to be persuasive to a person who is a professional real estate investor such as myself? Because a lot of my listeners are either my students or they're people who are also highly professional investors who have been doing it, and they would say to themselves, why should I invest with your company? Because your company isn't really a real estate company. You're really an investment company that everything's backed by real estate, but it's purely an investment company, a private one, privately held. And what would you say to somebody who's accustomed every day to doing it hands-on, and they take care of the tenants and the toilets and the trash, and they're fully capable of identifying? That was what I taught people how to identify a viable deal. And of course, I always tried to help people. That was in the book. It even says that the best way to get the best deal is to find out what they need and provide it to them somehow. But what can you say that would be persuasive to somebody who thinks they know it all? I think I came here that way myself. I thought that. I'm sorry. Well, if you've been doing it for 30 years and you've been successful, you must know something. So they must know something. So what is the difference here? Why am I switching? I know the answer, but I want you to share in your beautiful way of presenting.
Okay, and that's the second behind. That brings me to the point of sharing with you the second purpose, that is behind the purpose of Equity and Help, or the mission of Equity and Help, and that is to raise the conscious level on the investment world.
Wow.
So not every investor is for Equity and Help. We can communicate with the person and see if the person can see the viewpoint of a philanthro-investment.
So it might not be for one of you.
Exactly. Yes.
Because if you don't have that desire, then it probably isn't.
Yes, and we've been saying no to investors.
Have you?
Yes, of course.
Wow. You have a beautiful family, by the way, Ivan. I've met your lovely wife, and I'm curious to know, how has moving to America and starting this company impacted you privately in your own family?
Really very nice. It's kind of becoming day to day more our passion, in our life. And we really operate in our conversations on how this company can become a legacy for the humanity, and how this concept of the philanthropy investment world can actually change the viewpoint of billionaires and people that has $1 million sitting in their bank account with 2% interest or whatever, and just switching to a point that they will also be stabilizing families and helping to improve the society and the humanity. As a result of that, if others are in a better condition in life, we will be better and they will be better, and the planet will go into a spiral that will be improving constantly.
I love that, Ivan. You guys, you can see clearly that I'm very excited about this. I'm investing in a new way that I've changed my actions for the last 30 years. Philanthropist and an investor, that's my intention. I invite you all to join me. Hope you've had a good time. Thank you, Ivan, so much. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.